so.
We're not on.
We on now? I think we're on now. Yep. Time is 7 o'clock on Tuesday, December 19th, 2017. If I could, I'd like to call tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting to order. If you would, in the audience, this wonderful group I see before us, if you could join us as we begin every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, first up, we have public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here this evening for public forum? I'm assuming you're all here for something else, though. All right. Before we get to that, we have to deal with the minutes from our last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the Board of Selectmen minutes from the December 5th, 2017 meeting as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. All right, next up, we have recognition of a wonderful event that happened with some members in our community in the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to turn it over to the clerk, if I could. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, everybody. Congratulations. I think what we'd like to do tonight is two things. We have a recognition that I'm going to read, but before we do that, I'm going to call out the names of the players, and if you're here, if you can just stand up, and we'll just go through you all, so that'd be great. First of all, senior Naomi Falkenberg. Sophomore Chloe Adamovich. How'd I do? Junior Eileen Donovan. Senior Captain Erica Dimmick. Senior Captain Lauren Arthard. Sophomore Audrey Howe. Senior Emma Joseph. Junior Kate Evangeline. Senior Sophia Elworthy. Junior Lauren Campbell. Sophomore Leah Garabedian. Sophomore Madison George. Sophomore Berkeley Adamovich. Sophomore Allie Wright. Senior Captain Sarah Hicks. Sophomore Elena Edwards. Freshman Sarah Beachman. Junior Bridget Donovan. Senior Kara Braitley. Freshman Meredith Amelia, excuse me. Freshman Renee LaFrancois. Freshman Grace Owens. And sophomore Mary Donnelly. So tonight's recognition, the Town of Sutton, Massachusetts recognition. It is hereby resolved by the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the residents of Sutton that this recognition announce the achievement of the Sutton High School girls varsity soccer team as Division III state champions for the 2017 season. And whereas the girls varsity soccer team had a successful regular season with 15 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties, moving on to and winning the districts and the state championship with 6 wins, 0 losses, with a total team achievement of 92 goals scored and 10 against. Excellent.
Wow.
And whereas school sports encourage good sportsmanship as well as dedication, teamwork, and a healthy lifestyle. Now, be it further resolved that the Sutton Board of Selectmen, on behalf of all residents of Sutton, recognize all students and coaches for their participation in team-building sports and congratulate the 2017 Sutton Girls Varsity Soccer Team for an outstanding season. In witness thereof, the Sutton Board of Selectmen has caused this certificate to be signed this 19th day in December in the year 2017. Congratulations. Yeah, would you like to do that? Come up for a
Yeah.
team picture?
Team picture?
You want to sign it so we can give it to
Yeah,
them?
We'll
should do
sign
that.
it too.
Should definitely do that.
We'll step away.
Chair out of the way too.
Yeah, you have to do multiple rows, I think.
Doesn't matter.
More people come on. Some of you come over. Seniors and
Keep smiling, girls. Keep smiling.
Did you guys already sign all that? Great, girls, why don't one of you hold this? Very much. Appreciate you recognizing the roles.
Well done, ladies. Well done. Congratulations. Looking forward to you coming back next season.
That's right.
Too long, come up
Yeah.
soon.
I know.
Thank
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Kylie's dad.
Really?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Taylor was out with Kylie last night.
I know it.
Thank you.
She loves
Set looking nice.
Thank you.
Dave,
Keep the set looking nice.
thank you.
Dave, thank you. Good to see you.
Put your microphone up.
This is for you.
Does this get to go with us?
It does.
Great, awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good PR, huh?
Oh, yeah. Titletown. Sutton's Titletown.
For sure.
Thank you very
Hey,
much.
happy birthday,
Yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Tim, you're all alone again.
Put your hat back on.
Hey. You've got the power of the pen, okay? You can make it up.
All right, we're back on? All right, wonderful. What a great way to start off a meeting. Next up, we have a little more serious matter. We're going to be discussing a change to the OPEB policy. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly a tough act to follow. Tonight, I'd like to introduce a revised OPEB policy. We just passed the OPEB policy a year ago in December. But OPEB continues to put additional pressure on the town, and we continue to look for additional ways to address this problem. I've been reading a number of different communities with different policies, and one that I found interesting was a community uses a certain percentage of free cash to deal with their OPEB liability. So whatever the free cash, this policy in particular takes 10% of our free cash certified at the end of the fiscal year, the prior fiscal year, at fall town meeting appropriated towards OPEB. So if free cash is certified at 200,000, then 20,000 goes toward OPEB. If it's certified at $1 million, then 100,000 goes towards OPEB. So it's a percentage, but it's 10%. That's all it is. It's a very small percentage, but that percentage in a good year on free cash could amount to $100,000 or more, which further gets us along to dealing with the unfunded liability of the OPEB obligation. As you recall, we had S&P in here for a visit, very successful visit. We got an upgrade on our bond rating. One of the negatives was that we have very little control over our pension system. It's a regional pension system, Worcester Regional. There are a number of different communities that participate in that, and that rate is set by the board of directors for Worcester Regional. The one thing that we can control on the retiree benefits is OPEB liability, and that's our charge to attack both Tim and I and the OPEB Trust Committee that has been charged with this responsibility. So I present this policy to the board for consideration. You can see it. Number 4 is what has changed in the policy.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
John, do you have any comments for Jim tonight?
No, I think it's a great move, and what's in line too is with Heath and Melanson. They've always commented on how we follow and change some of our rules and regulations and to keep up with everything. I think we're ahead of the curve before everybody else, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a minute? Ray?
I'm in agreement. I think it is the right thing to do. And beyond that, I don't have anything else to add. I'm sorry, Dave. I know you would like this.
Yeah. Tis the season. Tis the season.
Just a couple quick questions. So this is intended to be additive to the other elements of the policy that we already have.
That's correct.
So if this policy had been in place during this last budget period, how much additional funds would we have contributed to the OPEB fund?
130,000.
And since we didn't do that, where did that money go? Like, what are we foregoing?
What are we foregoing?
I don't know if there's a way to answer that question. What otherwise would we do with that money if we don't?
Well, right
contribute?
now, we're gonna, our main objective with free cash this year is to deal with the capital plan. Pretty much the entire capital plan, short of, I'll address this in my update of, the public safety communications, which will be taken out of new growth, so it's not free cash, but pretty much the whole capital plan is funded out of free cash this year. That's, $600,000 to $700,000. That still leaves, $600,000-700,000 remaining.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include the fact that we swapped out new growth at fall town meeting for free cash.
Right.
So that's an additional $180,000 in free cash that we had as a result of fall town meeting. So we really have close to $800,000, $900,000 in free cash remaining. Now, our policy is to try to carry, not a policy, but our plan is to try to carry forward some of the free cash. But it's, we could have definitely withstood a $130,000 hit to free cash and still had, 1.15 to appropriate, which is more than enough to deal with our capital plan, plus carry forward, the remaining, after we deal with all of the end of the year transfers, additional money to the next fiscal year in free cash.
So, if anything, in my view, we've had pretty high free cash years the last couple of years.
Yeah.
This may not be a question you really can answer, but do you anticipate that kind of thing continuing, or is those kind of unusual circumstances and those numbers won't really repeat at that level?
They won't.
Typically?
They probably won't repeat at that level. It's hard to say though. Our policy, our practice is to always conservatively budget local receipts and tax revenue, et cetera, because we never want to be in the negative. But with that being said, we are pushing the new growth number from 150 to 200,000 this year, so that could change that free cash number. Local receipts, we are bumping that up by another $50,000 to $100,000 this year. So we are increasing that revenue number. But what we can't control is, departmental revenues. Tax receipts are above normal at this point in time. The building department has gone pretty much over their budget, 5 months into the fiscal year, a lot of new building going on, which should be reflected in our new growth number next year. So all of these things are happening as a result of the economy. And so you can conservatively budget, but, or even more aggressively budget, but you can't control the economy. When you have a boom like we're going through right now, you will do well. When things slow down, my guess is people will be thankful that we conservatively budgeted at that point in time.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess my comments to this board are that although I've had concerns about using the OPEB fund down the road someplace and what the plans are for that, I think that I've been adequately convinced that at the governmental level, there's going to be increasing pressure on cities and towns to fund their OPEB liability, maybe faster than we're comfortable with at some point. And so to whatever degree we get a head start, even if we don't really have a solid plan in the end for how that gets used someplace down the road, then, I think funding it to the degree we can makes sense. So I agree with this policy. I support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Dave 100%. The reality is that OPEB is a liability for the town. It's a debt that has to be paid. So what we're doing is we're taking the steps now to prepare for the potential lean years. When we have the money to be able to throw a little extra in to help cover this liability. I think this addition is appropriate. I think it has the proper checks and balances in it. Ultimately it has to be approved by town meeting. So if for some reason the residents disagree with this priority, they'll have their opportunity in fall town meeting to express that. So again, if we have a situation where maybe we can't afford to shift over the $10, $20, $50,000, it can be addressed at that time. But on those years that we can, we're going to throw a little extra money down that way, and it will help us out in the long run, I think. So I agree with this addition, and I think it's definitely sound.
Yeah, the pension system that we are part of, Worcester Regional Retirement, they started funding that, the 30-year basis, back in 1989. And the payoff date was 2018, I think, was the original. So that was the plan. That was what was that, a 30-year plan? Back, was it 20 or 30 years? 30-year plan back in 1989. Now the payoff date has been moved to 2040. So it is an obligation, but we will be funding the pension plan for almost 50 years.
Right.
Before we fully deal with it. And who knows what's going to happen with the payoff date. If we don't meet the target, then that payoff date may go to 2050.
Right.
So this is a long-term problem, and a long-term solution needs to put in place. And Dave is correct. We don't have the actual strategy on what we're going to use these revenues for. That's our challenge, to figure that out. We have been discussing about addressing the normal cost, the cost of current employees, and taking care of their retirement needs, not dealing with the current retirees, but just dealing with the current employees. And that's one nugget that we think we can tackle. But
Well, at least in that sense, the liability will not grow
That's
exponentially. So
That's correct.
I think it's definitely sound. And Timmy, thanks for your work on this, and Jim, thank you as well. John.
If I may, one more comment. Wasn't too many years ago, none of us knew what it even meant,
Right.
and including myself on this board. And I think what we've done in the past several years is we have been aggressive. And like I use the term quite often, we're ahead of the curve on a lot of things. It's the right thing to do. This policy is positive, and it's only going to help us in the end.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make one more point as well.
Sure.
The other thing, sort of picking up on the tenor of your points, was that this policy that we have is really a suggestion, not, there's nothing binding about it. So if in any given year, the policy itself, if it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, we can just go a different way if we need to, so.
Right.
But it's there when we think we can.
Well, it directs us,
Right.
so it's good to have in place.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, any further comment? All right, well, that being the case, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Motion to approve the revised OPEB policy.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further discussions? Any further comments? All those in favor of this revision?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. All right, next up, we have Town Administrator's Update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few updates for the board. The first is the budget process, FY19. Capital plan submissions have already been made to me. I'm in the process of compiling them and prioritizing them and figuring out what we can do with and what we can do without. We've received almost $1.4 million in capital requests, and obviously I'll have to pare that number down. I've had healthy conversations with the school department and other departments just to figure out what are the absolute priorities, what do they need done. And I think this year the capital plan is going to be, mid to large, because we have, not only we have outstanding issues that we have to resolve, the lights down at Gilmore Drive that we obligated to pay for back 8-10 years ago. The Goddard Lodge, we want to finish that project off, and we need additional money for the contingency money. Now, I plan to go out to bid in March. Hopefully, I'll know that exact number prior to Maytown meeting. And then the public safety communications, that was originally part of the police station, but then we decided to take it out and expand it, essentially, which includes now simulcast antennas, which is a greater coverage area, and probably good for the both police, fire, and ambulance and highway as well. So that's a necessity. So I'll present the draft capital plan to the board and the finance committee at some point in January, and we can have a discussion about that. Police station premium. We've talked a little bit about the net premium that we received in the amount of $368,000. It appears at this point that we can use that premium on the police station. However, we do need to essentially pay back the residents over a 20-year period of time through the tax recapitulation process. So essentially that amounts to roughly $18,000 a year over a 20-year period of time. That premium will essentially go back to the residents as part of a debt reduction, but we'll also be able to use it as part of the police station project. Reserved for appropriation. So that's kind of the best of both worlds. But we will determine how much of the net premium we will need to utilize with the police station as we get further along in the police station project. If we're in April and we realize that the cost to build that maintenance bay, which was originally part of the project, but then there were some overruns in cost and we needed to cut that out. We won't use more of the premium than we need to use, essentially, and we will make that final decision in April timeframe. Cell tower, Town Farm Road, we've received some equipment for the cell tower at Town Hall, as well as a large crate that was delivered down to the Highway Department. John Arthur from Wireless Edge informed me that it is planned to pick up and installed in January, and the general contractor is in the area. John is working with National Grid to deal with the power to the street. My understanding is there's power on the easterly side of Town Farm Road. We need to bring it over to the westerly side. If the plan is to go underground, that's one thing, but if it's to locate a pole on the other side, there'll be a pole hearing required by the Board of Selectmen. So we're in constant communications regarding the cell tower. It's moving forward. So we are working through some various issues up there, but it's happening. And the Town Hall Christmas party was today. From 11:30 to 1, and it was an enjoyable catered event, and we probably had roughly 70 people attend, which was a great crowd. And I'd like to thank everybody, the board members that were able to attend. We appreciate that, and appreciate the employees, department heads, and the employees that go out there and deliver services to the residents every day. So that was a great benefit. So thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice update, Jim. Regards to the public safety communications towers, I just want to stress to the people in Sutton, this is just not a police department issue. This is for highway, fire department, ambulance, and because I know myself, I can talk about experience, some of the down areas, and we all know a lot of them, and some of the consequences for having down communications could have cost us for a lot of different times.
Yeah.
So it's not just the expense to the police department. This is for a whole town-wide thing, and we got to really look at public safety.
Yeah, I agree.
In regards to the building, I haven't been privy on a lot of stuff because I didn't, not that I didn't want to be, but you have a wonderful committee and everything else. But I stress this, that if we can do something in early spring to put that extra bay in, again, I'll speak for myself, space is very important.
Yeah.
And when you can use that extra bay for a crime scene recovery or for a lot of other things, a bicycle program, you're always looking for indoor garage space and maintenance space, and that's a plus, because if you don't have it, someday you're gonna wish for short money.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, Jim, is short money.
Right.
That you wished you put that in. So if there's any way that I can say, I'm all support of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you,
Would
Mr.
you like me to
Chairman.
go to Ray first?
I think I'm ready.
Option's always there for
I'm
you.
gonna go quick.
All right.
Thank you for the update. I think you're right to sort of warn us a little bit that there's going to be a lot on the capital plan this year. Been a lot going on, but of course, the funding of the capital plan and the lockbox that's been developed that we've talked about so often just makes this, when these things happen, it's nice to know there's been sort of a bedrock of planning available to help us with this when it comes up. So I wanted to echo what John just said. I'm glad you picked that up, John, because an opportunity to try to put back that bay, if we can do it at the police station, would be really a big bonus, and I fully support doing that. You obviously know the technical details more than I would in terms of what it'd be used for, but all the descriptions that I've heard say that to be able to get that back would be a really big deal. So I'm excited that we have an opportunity to do that. The cell tower, everybody's talking about the cell tower, so it just keeps chugging along, and we'll do what we can do with it. So
Yeah, and we're gonna bird dog this thing. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna let it go.
No.
It's just, we just gotta follow through and make sure it happens.
the point that I keep making is that there's just a lot of things that are going on that are just outside of our control. That you can bird dog it, and,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you're doing that. But there's just so many elements of this that we can't, we just can't control. So, and since we're on this, because I'll skip it later, but I wanted to say thanks to all the employees here at Town Hall. I think for us to be able to shut down for a couple of hours this time of year to express some appreciation for all the great work that goes on here is the least that we can do. I appreciated being invited. I come do this job, but don't get a chance to really be in the building all that often. But you come in, you're welcomed, and it's a lot of fun, and I think well-deserved, and again, thank you to all the great work that goes on every year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well said. Thank you. Ray?
Thank you. As far as the capital request, I want to say this about you, Jim, and the Finance Committee. Right away, you talk about the things you want to get done and all the requests that are out there, but again, it shows you being conservative, spending the money the right way, and the time that it needs to be put into that. And I thank you for that, and I'm sure many people in town thank you for the same. I'll say the same thing about the police station, getting that last bay in. It'll end up costing more down the road, and this is the right time to do it. While they're involved in the construction, if we can get that bay on, I'd love to see that myself. And to echo what Selectman Hebert was saying about the communications, having had the opportunity to be a part-time police officer in town many years ago, I know the struggle of communications in town and the dead spots. So getting that up, the sooner the better, and getting the right equipment in place is the right thing to do. Again, a strong testament to, the folks in town that want to do the right thing and put us where we need to be. I'm excited about the cell tower. Maybe by the time I move to Texas, we'll have a cell tower.
All right, there you go. Then you'll have coverage.
No, and I really appreciate, you mentioned bird dogging it, but, that's this is a big thing. I mean, there's parts that we all know, there are parts of the town here that you just, some people just don't have landlines anymore, and they depend on a cell phone. So getting that tower up and running, and, perhaps getting some other carriers attached to it would be ideal. And lastly, as far as the Christmas party, thank you. I really appreciate being invited to that. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see so many people from town, so many town employees involved and laughing and enjoying some great food, outstanding food. So whoever put that together, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. All right, I have just two comments in terms of the updates. First is, and I want to stress this to the community. Hopefully you're paying attention, the fact that Jim and the financial team and the department heads, they're knee deep in the budget. This is budget season, and it's a lengthy process. And they're going to go through the budget top to bottom to make sure that when it's finally developed in total and it's presented before FinCom and ultimately the town and Springtown meeting, that ultimately all the contingencies are met and that it's a fair budget, that it's a sound budget, and it's a responsible budget. So if you're interested in the budgetary process, just stay tuned. Stay tuned to our meeting and some of the other town boards as the meetings go through the wintertime, because all of the different items will be covered. Second, communication piece. I'd just like to mention this. When we originally went before the town with the initial plan for the police station, originally we were going to have a communications tower at the Blue Jay site. But due to the hard work of the building committee, in particular Paul Maynard, who spent many, many hours going through the communications process, it was decided that that was not the ultimate or the ideal location and system. So there was a lot of talk and a lot of brainstorming that went on. So when we go before the Springtown meeting with this item for the new communication system that is ultimately for all of public safety, rest assured, that a lot of thought has gone into this, and ultimately we may not be able to capture 100% of the town, but we're going to be as close to we can, and it's going to be state of the art. And if you've tuned into the building committee meetings at all, Paul Maynard would say many times that the old system's kind of patched together. It was made to function, and it functions the best it can, but ultimately we can do better. As Ray said, think about the officers. You're driving through town, and you just like that, you lose communication. So I'm hopeful that, the town will agree with us, the position of this board, as well as the building committee, that this new communications piece is appropriate, and hopefully they'll support it. All right, in the Christmas party. Two things I'd like to mention. Ray mentioned laughter. You walked in this room and everyone was at ease. You had all the departments commingling. You had highway, you had police, you had fire department, you had senior center, you had all the offices in town hall. In fact, at one point it was standing room only. And it was fun time. So thank you, Jim, and everyone else who was involved. Debbie, I'm sure, played a big role in putting this together. And thank you to
Donna
all.
Wood.
And Donna Wood, of course. And of course, all the department heads for allowing, the members to come and have a good lunch and be part of a team.
Yeah.
And we got a really good
Let's
team
say
here.
one
So.
thing about Donna said she was cooking for 2 days. So
She did well.
Well, I'll tell you, she did an excellent
did an
job.
outstanding
so
job.
Kudos, Donna, that's for sure. All right. Announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable, correspondence. John. Dave.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, well, I guess I got to hog the mic a little bit. First off, I'd like to thank everybody involved at Waters Farm. Last week there was a luncheon that, again, some of the people from Town Hall were able to go, as well as some people of the community. And while it was a very, very cold day, the food was delicious, and it was very well attended. So thank you for everyone who put that together. Police station groundbreaking ceremony occurred Friday, another cold day. Oh, but what a good day. And I know it's going to be cycling through, the town channel, so hopefully you're able to get the schedule and give it a watch, because it was great seeing most of the department there. Just that picture of them all lined up. And, of course, the shenanigans of that little elf that is running amok with the police department. So that was definitely a lot of fun. I talked to Michelle today about food pantry needs. Fortunately, she thinks she's in good position for Christmas, but she did stress the fact that we are in the middle of wintertime and there's always basic needs that are apparent. So if you are considering making a donation either before Christmas or afterwards, could you please do a little shopping and include on that list some hearty soups, snacks, paper towels, dish soap, hand soap, deodorants, toothbrushes, and toothpaste. All right, and lastly, today is the second to the last night of Hanukkah. So those of you who are of the Jewish faith, happy Hanukkah. Next week we have Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone. And I believe the next time we come back, it's going to be 2018. So Happy New Year to everyone. All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing a motion second. Any further comments? Any further discussion?
Merry Christmas.
All
Happy
those
New
in
Year, Happy
favor?
Hanukkah.
Passes unanimously.
There you go.